Right. All right. All right. Awesome. We dispense with these guys, right? Okay. I will call this meeting to order. It's the Upper Darby Shade Tree Commission meeting. It's August 3rd, 2023. President is Mike Atwell and myself, Evan Hunt. We also have Bill Kaplan, Director of Leisure Services. All right. Yeah, so the first thing to do is approve the minutes from our last meeting, June 2023. Oh, I guess I'll mention that this was also like a makeup meeting.
That's good.
We were supposed to meet in July. That got canceled last minute. So we moved to August. We originally weren't supposed to meet in August. But minutes for the June meeting looked good to me. I did not have any changes.
I had no changes. So move to accept the meeting minutes from June meeting.
I'll second it.
All
Anybody
in favor?
Opposed? All right,
great.
Minutes passed or approved. All right. And the second thing, we're going to do a little update on the art contest that we're hosting for the TD Bank grant.
The art contest was to paint, to decorate signal boxes that 6 signal boxes along 69th Street Boulevard, starting at Market Street and ending at Marshall Road. The Planning Commission met and selected winners. I spoke with a member of the Planning Commission this week, and she told me that they endeavored to make sure that they didn't know whose designs they were reviewing. They selected 6 designs, and I know that those 6 winners have been communicated with. There was something in a difficult place to find on the township website, but someone shared with me a screenshot of that the winners had been selected. They've been notified. I think the township is in process of purchasing materials and preparing the respective signal boxes to be painted. I know one of the winners is an artist, a professional artist, a painting artist. She's done work with Mural Arts Philadelphia, various opera companies in Philadelphia and Delaware. She volunteered to help the point person in the township select paints and so on, so that it wasn't onerous on a person who might not be super familiar with that kind of work, and also so that the township didn't kind of overspend. Like, for example, she was saying that in her design, it may look like there are 7 different kind of shades of, like, say, the color purple, and rather than purchasing those 7 versions, if you buy deep purple and white, she can mix and probably all the respective artists can do those kinds of things. So the township shouldn't have to purchase 800 quarts of paint or whatever, and things like that. So I think it's moving along as from what I can tell. So that's really positive. I've seen 2 of the designs and they're really cool, but I haven't seen them all. And I suggested to my friend on the Planning Commission that if it's possible, it would be great if the township could put some version of those designs on the website to kind of build a little bit of the buzz, because I know everybody watching these proceedings are on the edge of their seats to know what those designs will look like. And so I think it's only fair to them that we share that. But our contest, seriously, it seems like it's moving along, and I think once we get past the worst of the hot summer, that the artists will be, that the boxes will be prepared, and the painting will begin.
Yeah, was there a timeline to finish the painting?
No,
No.
I don't know. I don't know of one. No.
Yeah, to start it, have everything prepped. That's
Yeah.
the biggest constraint, but it could wait for a couple of weeks if there's like a heat wave. and then
Right.
Do them when it's cool.
But I think the ideal thing would be to have the boxes prepped and not waiting too long, such that they get new stickers or new tags on them or whatever. So I know one of the designs actually uses the pole behind the box. Like, yeah. It's like I saw it, it's kind of like a modernized, like floral, like a landscape, and the pole sort of presents a hole with two little owls looking out, right? So she's sent a note to the township to ask that when that box is prepared, for the pole to be prepared as well. So, but right, so not a lot of time in between.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and probably with like super hot temperatures, it probably isn't very conducive even to do the preparation and priming and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a couple of learnings around the
Okay. Yeah.
what we got the time frame
Mhm.
when we're doing all this.
Mhm.
We can talk about that afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
And there'd be logistics about the use of the paint colors, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't want 4 people trying to paint the same days or whatever.
And just to let everyone know, like this is specialized paint, so we're talking some pretty expensive
Okay.
materials.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like
Right.
all from Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah. Okay.
This is some pretty expensive
Right.
special paint.
Oh, okay.
And then so and maybe afterwards, we can talk about all the lessons learned with logistics. But aside from all that, I did see the winners.
Okay.
And they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
we're talking like all these bumps and,
Yeah.
all this logistical stuff. But when you actually then look at the artwork,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
Oh, cool.
Which-
That's
Do they
cool.
know which box they have?
Yes,
They're like assigned different boxes already?
that's correct. Yeah. And there's another lesson learned with that because they were different sizes. You may.
Yeah.
We could talk about all that because if you want
Uh-huh.
to do this again,
Right.
they're just different size boxes attract different artists, and most of them
Right.
wanted the larger boxes. And so that just lesson learns about size and
I would not have expected that.
yeah.
I hadn't considered that.
So
I thought it would be a bigger task. Obviously, it's a bigger canvas
Canvas,
and an
yes.
advertisement for your work but a lot more work.
Yeah. But
Interesting.
yeah, they like the big mural. And maybe Bolo can put something together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's coming along
It
nicely.
is. Yeah, it is. It is. And thanks to Bolu and anybody else that's been working on it. That's really great.
Yeah, so this is happening in conjunction with the tree planting
Mhm.
on 69th Street. So now I want to talk about the tree portion of that. So in the grant, I guess we got funding to do 24 trees on 69th Street. And I think the plan was to just buy all the trees through the PHS. So I'll get the subsidized trees. And the order form for PHS is due September 1st. So I want to talk about species today, and then also pick a time where we could go out on 69th Street and like choose the exact spot and then figure out which species to go in which spot.
Mhm.
So I guess I guess we don't need to vote on the trees at this meeting. We could do that like September or October, but I do want to talk about the species a little bit.
Sure.
I left my list.
I know in previous meetings, we have agreed to purchase a number of trees, right? Since the exact species don't affect the cost from PHS, I think that has historically been adequate for like our purposes here at the meeting.
Yeah, we're definitely doing 24.
Right.
So yeah, I mean there's a lot on the list. I think we wanted to stick for large trees. So the ones I picked out were the hop hornbeam.
You speak up a little.
Yeah, sorry. So the few I identified were the hop hornbeam, the hackberry, the Kentucky coffee tree, the swamp white oak, the linden, and the hybrid elm. They also had the London plane tree and the honey locust,
Mhm.
which there's already a few of them on 69th Street.
Mhm.
They're like really good street trees, but since there's like a bunch down there already, I thought maybe we'd stay away from those, try and diversify
Mhm.
as much as possible. Yeah, I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on species or had a chance to look at the list.
I looked at the list, but I hadn't started going through, like, I agree that large trees are better for 69th Street. Um. Are there any, I mean, I'm sure like when you looked at these trees, you were thinking about, I mean, just like street trees, right? Like salt tolerant or drought tolerant or all those things. So they probably check all those boxes, right?
Yeah, I picked all these for their resilience. They're pretty good
Mm-hmm.
street tree
Mm-hmm.
options.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other one was the ginkgo tree, which I think
Ah.
is like a really excellent street tree, but it's not native, so
Right.
that's something to consider.
Right.
But at the same time, like I don't know if we're really planting for like habitat value.
Mhm, mhm.
It's more for like human use.
Yeah.
So maybe we go with a ginkgo.
The only thing about ginkgos that I've noticed is they're not like the most dense trees, like for providing shade. I don't know if they would have to be a male, right? The males, I think,
Yeah,
are
this was a fruitless cultivar.
fruitless.
There's
Okay.
no fruit.
I might not know, but when I see ginkgo trees on the street, sometimes I notice that they're very thin, like they don't do what like you know, like a white oak or some of the other. They don't provide the amount of shade, I think, and I don't know if
Yeah,
that's.
they're more like slender.
They are slender, but I mean, aesthetically, and when there are 24 trees, I'm definitely in favor of a mix, and I think a good mix is a good idea.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and some spots down there might need a more like slender tree.
That's
So I
true.
will have to go walk and figure
yeah.
out exactly what spots we want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Eric, did you have any thoughts on like species or anything?
Yeah, exactly. The ginkgos are slender, but they're strong.
Mm-hmm.
Tree.
Mm-hmm. They're really tough, and that is true. Like they're resilient.
The only comment I'll put in there is if we're looking at, the canopy and reducing like the heat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, but given what, Evan just said, if they're a wide variety and, you know, maybe there's one or two slender ones, but
Yeah.
I know in the past, I think Mike, you've mentioned it, you know, about the canopy and, you know, the heat reduction. So if that's a criteria, I think some of these other trees
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
provide that shade,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's really needed.
Do we have any idea about the other developments of 69th Street, like when they might occur?
Yeah, I don't have that timeline.
Okay.
What he's referring to is there's some benches and bike racks and some other amenities
Mm-hmm.
that I know the Shade Tree Commission wanted to plant all together. You know, so you have, if I remember right, like a grouping. The
Yeah, I
tree,
mean,
the bench.
if it works that
Right.
way, if it would work that way, it would seem like having a bench near a tree to take advantage of the shade would be, you know, a good thing. And some of that might depend on where bus stops are and things like that, where people would tend to want or need to wait. Because I don't remember there being bus shelters or anything on 69th.
No, just the signs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, would you then be open, maybe we can, well, I'll need to get that plan, I don't have it.
Sure.
But then, maybe, setting some time aside to, talk with the planning department,
Yeah.
probably Joshua
Mm-hmm.
Chase is probably the
Yeah.
person.
Wasn't there a few trees that they were removing?
Yes,
That we
Yeah.
were talking about putting
that's
different
right,
trees in their place.
and when we do the walk around. we'll
Yeah.
Do that, yeah,
Yeah.
And is the thinking that they'll be replaced?
They're not removed yet.
Well, they're not removed yet, but
Right.
I think that's probably the exact role of this.
That's the question, is whether they're, yeah,
Whether
okay.
it's gonna be removed and then you put the tree.
Yeah, so can we meet with Josh or whoever, like,
Yeah.
down like in the field?
It was like.
Yeah, I will,
That
I'll
would be
send
great.
you emails and try to
Okay.
coordinate that.
Okay.
Yeah, and ideally, we need to do that. in
Yeah,
August.
yeah, there's not many, but they're large. And they're on 69th Street and they're called, they weren't the right tree for the right spot 40 years ago. Well, 40 years ago, they
Yeah.
didn't select the
There's
right
a
tree.
perfect tree there. What you're-
I know.
Yeah. So,
There's not right now.
which is why we appreciate, the consideration that the Shade Tree Commission is doing now. I think maybe 40 years ago, they thought they were doing it, so I don't want to imply whoever was on it.
I'm just hopeful I'm not on the commission 40 years from now,
If you are right with
when the
that,
new lawsuits come in
that's
from
very
people
really
getting
frustrating.
beamed on the head by a hackberry or a
Right. We will know
or
where you've been.
ginkgo fruit from a cultivar that was supposed to be fruitless.
That's funny, because in hindsight, yeah, 40 years from now, they'll be like, what were they thinking?
That's what I tell my neighbors. I said, like, hey, let's get some trees planted. They say, oh, they'll damage our pipes. And I'll say, you're 70 years old. You're not gonna be here when it damages your pipes. Like, let's get it going.
And then, is there anyone else that needs to be at that meeting besides Ellen and I?
Well, I'll float by, Allison. I would assume the township engineer,
Oh, yeah,
so.
Mike, yeah. Okay.
I'll talk with,
Monte.
I know, the, Public Works Director is, eager to get this started as well.
Oh, good.
So is, the L&I, mostly because of the, tripping hazard.
Yeah.
So remove those,
Mhm.
put more appropriate trees in.
Sure.
And get all that.
Cool.
Is there any discussion on maintenance on some of the existing street trees around?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about tree maintenance this year.
Well, then it-
Biggest project that was the focus on 2024. Sorry, that's.
No, it is, but it's
Yeah.
right. It's as important as get right. Neglect ones that you've spent the effort and money on and put your hopes and expectations in. Yeah. Yeah, and that is a discussion around staffing and equipment and things like that we've started all the kind of the thought processes on, as well as the plan itself of how trees get onto the list for their early plant maintenance, right? For those first 2 or 3 years.
Are there any horticulturalist people involved in those decisions?
Well, we're working, we've been recommended someone to speak with to start that actual kind of a different process or an allied process for existing and older trees to kind of triage some of our bigger parks or public ways such that we can, take care of the trees in the right way before either there's a problem or when it's the right time. So yeah, there's a lot like happening, or in process. We have a lot of kind of balls in the air, so to speak. But what's the point of planting, right, if we're not going to care for them? So that's kind of our sort of job one, is to figure out how to get trees that have been planted in the last year or two to make sure they're watered and mulched and protected from yard equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah, we still have this meeting. That'll be a good step also.
Mhm.
Making sure these trees are getting taken care of properly. We also wanted to ask you about a meeting at the senior center.
Oh, yes.
Because this isn't an actual item on the agenda, but similar to having a walk on 69th Street to plan out which trees go where and so on. Bill Kaplan had asked if we could do a similar thing at the Watkins Senior Center in Upper Darby, because there's a desire for some additional planting there this year or at some point in the future.
So I can set up a couple of dates, maybe if it's after 4:30, if everyone is okay with that, and we can meet there,
Sure.
if that works.
Yeah, let's do
It
that.
would for me.
That
Mhm.
is another to do.
It's light, into the evening this time of year, so that would be okay.
So that's the setup, the walkthrough,
Mhm.
69th Street, and
Mhm.
then with the senior center. We could do the, on the same day. We could do
Sure.
2 separate days.
All right, cool. Was there anything else regarding that?
I don't think so. I don't have anything else on that, Bill.
On the agenda.
On
items-
69th Street
No,
or
no.
Watkins or, okay,
Set up the meeting with, and the timeline.
Right.
The plans at 69th Street and, then a walkthrough.
All right, perfect. And then the last thing was just public comment. Do you guys have anything you wanted to talk about?
Kind of already.
Well, I think an
Yeah,
important one is like kind of the life cycle plan, right, for the planting that we do. Right, to be able to make sure that we get trees watered and that they stay mulched and
Yeah, that's a big goal.
pruned.
Yeah.
And that's a big one, but that's it's kind of a big endeavor that
Yeah,
we
it's
haven't
a
really,
huge endeavor.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, the township hasn't taken like maintenance very
Right.
seriously. So like shifting away from that into a more like maintenance focused approach. Like, that takes a long time.
How much?
Mhm.
Yeah, we actually,
We converted it.
yeah, we actually moved on that, so I can talk about that at the next, meeting.
Okay,
There's been some movement on, getting the right equipment.
great.
So just a little bit, and I think it was Evan who said, so we're looking at more of a, community tree plan. I think
Mhm.
I had originally to
Mhm.
township management or, plan, but we'll get that wording right. But that is what's on the, agenda for 2024. So I think, maybe 2 months ago, there was some discussion, with the commission about, holding back on any new plantings, except for the 69th Street one, because that's already in the pipeline. If I'm correct, right? And then focusing on a tree plan. And one of the models, and again, I don't know which one of you sent this to me, it might have been Eric, but this is from Penn State College of Agricultural Sciences, and it's just a really good framework for what you're describing. How do you develop a comprehensive tree plan? And we had a first meeting about it. We have the next one coming up on the 18th. And so developing this, if you're interested, sorry, I'm jumping now.
That's good.
Your commission.
That's good.
This is a really needed, kind of like what Evan was saying, a document to kind of guide, the township, in not only the trees, in the trees, across the township, not only in the parks.
Right.
And so we just need that plan for budgeting, for purchasing equipment. I think one that we may be able to purchase soon is another proper watering truck.
Training.
Yeah, right.
We talk about trying to water the trees along Westchester Pike. It's just more difficult than at one of the parks. And that was a conversation in the last.
But with the climate and the weather that we have, it's more and more important, right? It can get really dire.
Yeah.
When we have these long dry spells.
And so we need the equipment, as Mike was saying, we need the expertise, and we need a plan.
Yeah.
To be able to sustain this. It's not as exciting as planting trees.
Right.
But
Right.
I think
Sustaining trees is
sustaining
pretty
trees,
important.
I appreciate
Yeah.
the direction. So,
Yes.
No, that's great. Yeah, there's nothing else. I guess I'll move to end the meeting.
I'll second the motion.
All right, anyone opposed? All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Bill. Thanks, public, for attending. Q Public. Jane and Joe Q Public.